On December 10th, 2024, the third Sonic movie premiered at the Empire Theatre in London's Leicester Square. Whilst it's well known that Sega and Paramount Pictures took over the majority of that location for the film, the full story of what happened during that night is much larger than you think. You see, they weren't just interested in having a takeover of the venue outside, they planned to take over the majority of central London. This is the story of Sonic 3's opening premiere night. The first indication that Paramount and Sega were planning something special for the event was spotted a few days earlier. A short walk from West Brompton Station are two dueling billboards. A quick street view search shows that these are often hired by individual brands to promote their products, and they very rarely have any relevance to one another. But at the start of December, there was something very different here. To promote the film, two giant dueling billboards depicting Sonic and Shadow racing towards each other were installed. On their own, these are pretty cool. I especially like how it looks like both Sonic and Shadow are bursting out of the frame. But these billboards also have a bit of a party trick. Let's see what happens when it gets dark. Both of the billboards have their own unique lighting. I love this, it really catches your eye more than a typical billboard would. Sonic and Shadow look like they're popping out as you pass by these. Another thing I like is the confidence of both of these. Neither billboard actually says the name of the film, they're just banking on the recognition of the characters to sell the movie. I know this is a lot of hype for what is essentially two billboards, but I got to see these in person and I thought they looked awesome. And I took too much footage of these, so what else am I going to do with it? Here's one photo I took where I tried to be artsy. Look, it almost looks like Sonic and Shadow are racing past them. At least that's what my broken mind tells me. But leaving the billboards behind, it was time to head to Leicester Square and prepare for the premiere. On the morning of December 10th, preparations were being made to transform Leicester Square from its usual tourist hotspot into a spectacular celebration of the film. Sections of the street were closed off to the public as giant screens were moved into position which would display clips from the film as well as short sequences involving individual characters who would appear from time to time. A small stage was constructed in front of the screens which would be used to conduct interviews and photo ops, as well as a huge golden ring complete with the Sonic Movie 3 logo to welcome guests to the red, or in this case, the blue carpet. But we'll come back to the blue carpet a little bit later, because right now, I'm going to a party! Because what's a good movie premiere without an exclusive, invite-only, VIP pre-show party? Located at the rooftop at Trafalgar, a selection of celebrities and VIPs were invited to a pre-premiere party, including me! Here I am trying to look the fit as the press takes my picture. As guests entered the space, they found the venue had been transformed into a small celebration of the third movie. Film posters were along the walls and windows, and uniquely themed games were available to play. One such game was a Sonic 3 themed cocktail table, and yes, my accent makes that sound worse than it is. Once you've got your mind out of the gutter, it was a two-player versus Patak wall type game. One person played as Sonic, and the other as Shadow. The winner was the player who managed to hit the most lights in the time. But one of the more interesting attractions was this arcade cabinet of Sonic 1. Whilst it was Sonic Movie 3 themed, the game itself was the arcade version of Sonic 1. Not really much to say about this, but it was a nice way to give people a chance to play a version of Sonic 1 in a really unique way that's not very common. But if you wanted to try something a little bit more recent, there was also a copy of Shadow Generations available to play. Other entertainment included artist Dave Sharp, who painted two huge canvases of both Sonic and Shadow, and these were amazing. At the start of the night, these canvases were completely blank, but within 2 hours, he completed both a Sonic and Shadow. If you check out his Instagram account, you can actually find he's uploaded a full time-lapse video of him painting both of these works. But one of the coolest and more hidden experiences that you could have was if you were lucky enough to find this guy. This is Mark Conlin. He's known as the Shadow Cutter. He was at the party and he approached guests and asked if they would like their picture taken. If you said yes, he wouldn't use a camera, but instead would take out some card and cut out your silhouette. It took him a few minutes to complete each one, and when he was done, it was placed inside a small Sonic 3 themed booklet for you to take away. He explained to me that the idea behind why he was hired to do this was that in the movie, Sonic is fighting Shadow, so Paramount Pictures wanted guests at the party to be able to take their own Shadow home with them. Here's what mine looked like. But another really cool attraction which was unique to the venue itself was the view from the balcony. If you went outside, you were treated to a spectacular view of the London skyline. Within virtually the same sightline, you could see the Palace of Westminster, Big Ben, the London Eye, the Shard, Trafalgar Square, and even Canada. No, really, that's the Canadian Embassy, so technically that's right, that's Canada over there. This was one of the highlights of the event. Many guests said it was their favourite part of the evening, just being able to go outside and relax with a drink as they took in both the London and Canadian skyline. And speaking of drinks, guests were treated to free Sonic movie-themed food and beverages. Here you can make out Sonic's golden rings, hot dogs, and a fried chicken sandwich, because Knuckles eats chow. And whilst I didn't get to try these, there was also some themed desserts available. Here is some Tails and Shadow themed macaroons. If you were thirsty, there were a selection of Sonic movie themed drinks to try, including a Shadow Teeny, Knuckles Punch, and the one non-alcoholic drink, the Many-Tailed Martini. Here I am trying the Sonic themed drink and having a grand old time. But with night settling in and the screening of the movie drawing closer, guests were gathered together and given their special Sonic movie-themed tickets and escorted a short walk to the cinema. At which point, the scale of how big this event was became obvious. Spotlights lit up the night sky and the stars came out in force as guests from the party walked along the blue carpet with the likes of Jim Carrey, Ben Schwartz, Idris Elba, and even Lee Majube. He's my favourite, and I really hoped I could have met him so he'd sign my bookie book. This didn't happen and I was sad, but I still really enjoyed myself. But the biggest star power wasn't Keanu Reeves or even Colleen. It was the Sonic movie mascots. They were there too to entertain guests. As guests were ushered inside the theatre, they had to ascend the Sonic-free electrical staircase. This was amazingly cool. The cinema had a staircase which had tiny screens fitted that would display Sonic and Shadow as the guests climbed them. Here's footage I took of Tails almost falling over as he climbed them. The rest of the cinema lobby was fully decorated with posters of the movie and even more giant screens depicting various imagery from the film. As guests were ushered inside to take their seats, a selection of complimentary drinks were provided. Note the Sonic-free promotional t-shirts! When you eventually found your seat, you were also given a free water as well as a free pack of popcorn. Once all the guests were seated, the film's director Jeff Fowler was introduced, and he came out onto the stage and also brought with him pretty much the entire cast of the film. Jeff then gave a short speech to attendees, thanking them for coming and showing so much support for each of the 3 films.
Thank you all. It is absolutely spectacular to be here. This movie was made in London. We're so excited for you guys to be here, seeing it tonight. We're so proud of it.
As well as thanking the cast for their patience, since he's still quite new to making a major motion picture and is still finding his feet, whereas most of the cast and crew on the Sonic movie franchise are very experienced filmmakers, so he wanted to thank them for being so patient with him.
2018, I was a first-time filmmaker, never had been on a set before on Sonic 1, and this group of people, this cast, welcomed me with open arms. They were so kind, they were so generous, they were so patient with me, probably watching me make mistakes day in and day out, but they believed in what we were doing. We wanted to make movies that had just amazing heart.
With the speeches complete, the cast and crew left the theatre to continue the film's promotion. Except for one. If you look very closely at the footage I took, you can see that Idris Elba doesn't go with them. He says something to Jim Carrey and then, to the audience's amazement, climbs the stairs and takes a seat next to a random fan and watches the entire film with them. What a nice guy! For those of us in the cinema, it was at this point that the lights dimmed and the film began its first public screening. But this isn't where our story ends. Other than Idris Elba, the cast and director all left the theatre, which was a little bit strange to those of us watching because we all thought they'd stick around to watch the movie with us, right? Well, there was a reason why they all had to go. They had another important job to get to. Not too far from the cinema is the London Eye, and the cast, minus Knuckles, had another really cool bit of promotion to do. A small stage was set up in front of the attraction with a button on a plinth. The cast gathered round and a countdown was played. When it hit 0, they all pressed the button. With this, the London Eye transformed into a sonic blue colour before then suddenly changing to red, depicting the metaphoric battle between Sonic and Shadow. As the night went on, Sonic and Shadow were projected onto various London landmarks including Tower Bridge and Westminster Palace. Crew members then drove vehicles around London projecting Sonic and Shadow racing along the side of buildings and the bank side of the Thames, giving the impression that Sonic and Shadow were fighting all over the London skyline. Even Tails and Knuckles got in on the action. One of the coolest sights was this projection of Knuckles appearing to climb up the side of a skyscraper. For the rest of the night, teams worked across London to bring Sonic and Shadow's fight across the entirety of the central London skyline in a truly unique spectacle. So that's the story of the Sonic 3 movie premiere night. night. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at what went down during that evening. Since I was fortunate enough to be there, I figured it would be fun to try and show you guys what it was actually like to be at one of these VIP events, as well as the experience of walking the red, or rather blue carpet itself. But most of all, I was just really surprised to see how much larger the plans were for the evening's entertainment and promotion than I initially imagined. And whilst it would have been nice to get Lee Majube and the rest of the cast to sign my bookie book, I still really enjoyed myself, and please invite me back for the 4th movie. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support the work I do further, please consider supporting me on Patreon like these amazing people did. Or to continue the adventures, please consider following me on Blue Sky or Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.